I find this really fascinating. Steve Scalise, you know, the Republican from Louisiana who once said that he was David Duke without the baggage. He is now the either number 2 or number 3. I think it might have changed with Liz Cheney getting kicked out. I believe he's number 2 now in the Republican power structure in the U.S. House of Representatives. And he got his vaccine on Sunday, publicly. Had invited photographers, the news media to come in. Hey, see me get vaccinated. Why? What's going on? I mean, John Aravosis is. I saw this tweet this morning. I thought, I'm wondering the same thing. He says, for everyone saying the Republicans are now freaking out because of the about COVID because it's killing their base. They knew it was killing their base a year ago. They didn't care. Something has happened in the last week that has scared the hell out of the Republican Party, and I want to know what it is, tweets John Aravosis. Now, you'll recall, I believe it was on Monday, my op-ed for the day over at HartmannReport.com was, or perhaps it was last Friday, was that death is an electoral strategy. The GOP is literally using death and disease as an electoral strategy to try to crash the economy, blame that on Joe Biden and say that he's bungled the handling of the COVID crisis and the pandemic and all this kind of stuff. And in fact, it looked like it was starting to work. You'll recall, the Dow dropped 700 points on Monday. And I've been saying this, by the way, since last May or June, when it became obvious that a year ago, May and June, when it became obvious that the Trump administration media had shifted prior to April 7th, from January 20th to April 7th of 2020, of a year ago, right-wing media and the Republican Party were saying, hey, we should be concerned about this brand new virus, this COVID, this SARS-CoV-19 thing. And they were going to mail 5 masks to everybody in America. They had the post office all set up to do it. They had the orders in. They were all ready to go. They had shut down the economy in the second week of March of 2020, of a year ago. And then on April 7th, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all of them, right across the board, the LA Times, the Chicago Tribune, all of them, their front page headline that day, and the main story, public broadcasting, was new study shows COVID kills more black people than white people. Disproportionate deaths among communities of color, African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans in particular. And the whole right wing just did a what? And during that following 2-week period, and I've documented this in several of the pieces that I've written over at HartmannReport.com, it's fairly easy to find, and other places as well, and I've talked about this at length on this program. Rush Limbaugh came out and said, oh, there's a racial factor here. And suddenly he was now saying, oh, maybe this COVID is not such a big deal. The White House canceled the masks they were going to send to people. I mean, so killing letting people die as part of their strategy for dealing with the pandemic really goes back to April of last year for the Republican Party. And the Republican Party and Fox so-called News and Tucker Carlson and all these guys, have been just pounding on don't get vaccinated. It'll mutate your DNA, or it'll make you magnetic, or it'll cause you to shed spike proteins, and all these weird, bizarre conspiracy fantasies that they're promoting to cause people to be reluctant to get vaccinated. And something has happened in the last week. And now you're starting to hear Republicans say, you really need to get vaccinated. Sean Hannity, a couple days ago on Fox News, completely changed his tune. This morning, Chuck Grassley tweeted out, the Republican senator, the senior senator, I've said this to several Iowa reporters again this week, but I'll amplify it here on Twitter. I encourage all, and he puts all in all caps, all eligible Iowans/Americans to get vaccinated. The Delta variant scares me, so I hope those who haven't been vaccinated will reconsider. Is it just that simple? that the Delta variant is now, is now just like so contagious that it's sweeping across red state America, and now it's becoming obvious now that they're, CNN is doing comparisons. Here's a map of counties that Donald Trump won, and here's a map, with all the counties that Donald Trump won in red, and here's a map of all the counties in the United States where the Delta variant is really starting to burn through and fill up hospitals, and they're in red, and gee, when you compare these two maps, they're identical. Is that it? Are Republicans finally realizing that their strategy of trying to crash the economy and blame it on Biden by letting people get sick and die is backfiring on them because it's become so obvious that that's what they're up to? Or is it that some of these Republicans actually believed their own BS? I mean, Steve Scalise didn't get vaccinated until 4 or 5 days ago. He's had access to this information for a year. Earlier today, one of these Republican members of Congress was, who's a physician, in fact, was complaining on, I believe it was on Fox, it might have been one of the other networks, was saying, well, why doesn't the news media ever ask the Democrats if they're vaccinated? Why do they only ask Republicans? See, half of the Republicans in Congress refuse to say if they're vaccinated. And only, it appears that only about 44% of them are vaccinated. But fully half of them refuse to even say as of a week or so ago. So this guy is coming out and saying, well, why don't they ask the Democrats? Well, they did. In May of this year, that's 2 months ago, the Democratic caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives announced that 100% of their members were vaccinated. And every single Democrat in the Senate was vaccinated. And it looks like Republicans are just now figuring this out. Oh, this death and disease that is striking across America, we created, and it's entirely partisan, and we're going to get blamed for it. We thought we could crash the economy and blame it on Joe Biden. Is this now, this sudden, oh my God, let's all get vaccinated? Fox now has a vaccine passport. If you're going to work at Fox, you got to show your vaccine passport to get into the building, apparently. They call it the Fox Clear Pass. Is the reason that the Republican Party and Republicans and right-wing media are all of a sudden saying, hey, maybe it's time to get vaccinated, not across the board, but many of them, is the reason that, yes, the economy went down, or the economy, actually the stock market isn't the economy. The stock market went down on Monday, but it came back up on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's back up above where it was before it crashed on Monday now. So is it that they're looking at this strategy of let's have death and destruction to crash the stock market so that we can blame it on Joe Biden and then we get reelected next year? Is it that that strategy just blew up in their face? And so now they're saying, oh, well, I guess forget what we said. We didn't really mean it. We were just joking. And why aren't Democrats saying if they're vaccinated? Is that it? Or am I missing something here? Is there something else going on that I'm completely missing? It appears to me that there's this massive recalibration going on for the Republicans to try to get ready for the election.